Welcome to the Destination New South Wales Quarantini Hour Virtual Wine Appreciation. We are taking you into the fantastic wineries and cellar doors of New South Wales via Zoom. Today, we are taking you to the Canberra district. And Canberra district is one of the 14 different wine regions in New South Wales. It's in southern New South Wales and it borders the ACT and includes the beautiful towns of Bungendore, Hall, Gundaroo, Yass and Murrin-Bateman. It's also a 3-hour drive south of Sydney or 35 minutes out of Canberra. My name is Angus Hughson. For the last 10 years, I've been writing about wine for Gourmet Traveller Wine and the Australian newspaper. Now we are here at the fantastic QT Hotel and we're here with its wine director and my friend Chris Morrison, who's my co-host today. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Angus. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Morrison. I'm the Group Wine Director for QT Hotels, which includes everything wine for our hotels in Perth, the Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne, and of course, Canberra.
Lovely. So as you all know, since June 1, it's been time to reboot New South Wales. For those of us who are in the city, it's time for us to get out to the country towns to go and see those beautiful landscapes. And if you're in other state capitals or if you're in the country, now's the time to book that staycation in Sydney, get back to Sydney. All those businesses around New South Wales, they're ready to welcome you with open arms. So now really is the time to love New South Wales again. So today we're going to start with a little bit of housekeeping. Firstly, what you should have in front of you. Wine bottles, 2 very delicious wine bottles. Looking forward to those. Wine glasses and also a glass of water for your hydration at the same time. Also for housekeeping, please keep your Zoom on mute and type in your questions in the chat box and we'll get to those when we can. Also, please use the hashtag #LoveNSW to share your photos. Now, Chris, we're going to taste some wines, but you have some tunes for us too.
That's right. If everyone could just look in their chat box, you'll see a QT playlist, which we play on every Friday as our guests arrive for their weekends. A little bit of fun and to get you in the mood for Friday.
So, Chris, what are we going to be drinking today?
So we're trying 2 wines from the Canberra district. The first one is 2019 Ravensworth Sangiovese, and the other one is the 2018 Clonakilla Shiraz Viognier.
Lovely. What would we like to start with?
I think we'll start with the Ravensworth today.
Excellent. I think that's a great idea. So please pour us a glass. And everyone at home, pour yourself a glass. What we're having is the Ravensworth Delicious Sangiovese. So firstly, we're going to do a cheers. So cheers. Everyone hold up your glass. Now, very importantly, there's going to be a super cheers later. There's going to be a cheers where we want to see you all later. For the moment, this can just be the relaxed cheers. So cheers. Thank you for joining us. Smell this wine. Cheers to you, Chris. So please sip and savour these wines while we talk you through the Canberra district. Now, firstly, to start, has anyone been to the Yass Valley or the Canberra district lately? Put your hands up. Okay, most people. Have we got any Yass locals? Have we got any locals? We have a thumbs up. I assume that's a Yass local. Brilliant. Maybe 1, maybe 2. Fantastic. Well, it's a place to visit. Tell us, Chris, why is this particular wine region so special?
I think Canberra, for most of us who love and enjoy wine, has become one of those regions that's become an emerging region in Australian wine. It's cool climate, it's new generation of winemakers, it's contemporary approach to wine. I think it's really cementing it as a region to watch now across Australian wine.
And it's a cool climate region. There's over 140 different vineyards. There's 30 cellar doors. So, and within quite a small area, I think. And I mean, how long has this been an area? How long has Canberra district been a place to go?
The Canberra district's actually, from a grape growing standpoint, goes back about 160 years, but it's really probably in the last 15 to 20 years, it's really started to establish itself as a contemporary wine region, making some world-class wine styles.
And it's actually quite amazing because this district has, in a short period of time, become one of the state's best, really. So James Halliday, Australia's greatest wine critic, recently, top 100 New South Wales, 19 of those were from the Canberra district. So you can see, within that short period of time, we're talking about 10 or 15 years, really it's put itself on the map as being a fantastic region. And there's no big companies there either, is there?
No, there's all small winemakers, largely family owned. There's a good chance when you visit the Canberra district and you go to a winery, you'll meet the winemaker. And that really adds a lot to the cellar door experience.
And it's interesting. It's actually quite a diverse region because the vineyards actually stretch from 300 metres to 800 metres in altitude. So remember, every 1 degree, well, I should say every 100 metres, you go up or down, you lose or gain a degree. So you've got a 5-degree range there. So in some of those higher vineyards, it's going to be cooler. Some of those lower vineyards, it's going to be warmer. But generally, it's a cool region. So in terms of what does that mean for the grape varieties, Chris?
It means largely that we retain a lot of acidity and freshness. And I think that is one of the keys to Canberra's unique wine style, Canberra District's wine style. It's one of those ideas that from a texture standpoint, from a flavour standpoint and a balance standpoint, Canberra District produces wines of real freshness and intensity. And I think that's one of the things they do better than most right now.
Yes, I think so. Absolutely. So let's get into this wine. So I'm really interested in asking you, who's in Zoom land, who's had Sangiovese before? Who's tasted Sangiovese before? Okay, so we've got a bit of Sangiovese. Have we got any Sangiovese haters out there? We got any? Well, that's a good sign. Absolutely. And who's never tasted Sangiovese before? Okay, so we've got a handful. Well, hopefully today's really going to get you into, I think, what is a fantastic grape. Now, please put on the chat box. Love to hear about what you're tasting. Love to hear about what you're smelling and your impression of this wine, because it's a very interesting wine. Chris, tell us about this wine.
Ravensworth is one of those wineries that has come along in the Canberra districts in the last 10 to 15 years. So Brian Martin and his wife Jocelyn started this winery in 2001. Brian, as Gus knows, has got a great history in the Canberra district, both as a food writer, he's a forager, and he's a kind of obsessed with flavour and texture. And I think you see that in his wines. His approach is more about cross-planting his vineyards as opposed to those really neat ones you see in some regions. Lots of plants and microbials growing in his vineyard. He has a lo-fi approach. And one of those things is little mechanisation, virtually no chemicals, and little intervention in the winery. So his approach is about sustainability, but making really delicious early drinking wines.
And if you're interested, follow him on social media and you'll see this guy is obsessed by food. He's absolutely obsessed by food. He was a food writer as well. And I think that kind of, that kind of perspective he brings coming from food means these are just absolutely stunning food wines, and he makes a whole bunch of great varieties. And this is the Sangiovese. And just some comments to start with. So, Quentin, favourite hour of the week. Well done. Excellent. It's our favourite hour of the week as well, I've got to tell you. From Hansi, really great drink. Could be dangerous. I would absolutely agree with that. Amelia going down a treat. Amanda loving the taste. Now I'm going to forget the label. Absolutely, a great label. What do you smell in this glass for you, Chris?
Sangiovese kind of being a Tuscan grape variety from the central part of Italy, it's naturally got this wonderful acidity and this little twist of tannin. And I think what Brian has done with his wine is create a wine that retains enough of those wonderful local fruit characters and make it kind of juicy. It's not drying. It's not it doesn't leave you wanting for flavour. These wines have packed so much flavour and freshness into them, which I think is one of those great signatures of Canberra District.
For me, it's got a range of fruit flavours. There's kind of a cranberry, there's a red cherry, like a Morello cherry, but then Sangiovese, what I love about it is this dried herb kind of character, this slightly meaty character, this slightly savoury character. And what we're looking for, what cork dorks like Chris and I are looking for, when we're drinking something like a Sangiovese, we're really looking for wines that taste like the grape variety they're made from. And I think this absolutely is a beautiful example of that particular wine. And I think, and so Chris, Brian he's really looking after the environment, isn't he? He's all about looking after the natural environment, sustainability. And I think that gives this wine energy.
100%. I
think this wine has just this beautiful, juicy, explosive energy. And I've got what else have we got here? We've got Felix is saying doesn't taste like 13.5%, very drinkable. Yes, and that cooler climate absolutely produces lower alcohol. We've got anyone else doing Sangiovese in the region?
Good question. We probably see a little bit more Sangiovese come out of the Canberra district than most regions, owing the fact the climate suits it so well. Lark Hill is a biodynamic winery, actually a pioneer of biodynamics, probably just in Australia, not just Canberra, who do a wonderful version. Also Four Winds. Four Winds Sangiovese is both done in a rosé and a dry wine, and it's one of those really new emerging wineries that we both love.
Yes, and I think Brian is doing a hell of a lot of great things, new varieties, and he's a really good illustrator of what's going on in Canberra. Is about people are really exploring, they're really opening up new varieties, and they're looking at new things. So I think now it might be time for us to get on to the next wine.
Indeed.
So please pour yourselves a glass of the Clonakilla Shiraz Viognier. You'll notice Chris and I doing a little bit of social distancing at the same time. So for those of you out there who love Shiraz, put your hand up if you love Shiraz. Okay, so we've got some Shiraz drinkers here. I mean, the fascinating thing about this wine is it's just such a different style of Shiraz. It's actually a really groundbreaking style of Shiraz. So for those of you who like big Morrison McLaren Vale Shiraz, really interested in your comments that you've got to say about this wine, what you're smelling and what you're tasting, because it really is a very, very different style of Australian Shiraz. So Chris, what do you get out of this wine?
What I love about this wine is, again, when we first saw it about 20 years ago, started coming across tasting tables and working its way in a restaurant wine list, what this was a paradigm shift in the grape variety we thought was made maybe one way. Big, powerful, warm climate Shiraz, lots of oak, sweetness and alcohol. This wine showcased cool climate viticulture in Australia before I think most people were doing it. And also the blending of Viognier, which at that moment was unheard of in Australia.
That? What are we talking? So we have white grapes in this wine. So, and actually have a look at it. Look at the colour of this wine. This is a really fascinating, strange phenomenon with wine. When you add a little bit of white grapes, Viognier to Shiraz, it just gives it this explosive colour. Have a look at the wine in front of you and you can actually see it really has this beautiful, explosive, vibrant kind of colour to it. And so this strange phenomenon, we don't really do it that much in Australia. Yeah. Tim was really, in many ways, the guy that made it famous in Australia. He was really the first person to go, they do this in the Northern Rhone Valley. They do this just south of Leon. Let's try that ourselves. Let's try adding a little bit of white grapes. And what does that add, do you reckon, Chris? How good is this, though?
Oh, it's beautiful.
How delicious is this? I mean, Judy Saris, lovely perfume. Excellent. Well done, Judy. Madeline Clark, love this wine. Amanda Woods, love this wine. Divine, almost seems a shame not to share it, almost. Good news. Well, you can enjoy the rest of it for the rest of the evening. Quentin has also decanted it as well, which we're not overly surprised with. So that's good. Quentin's probably getting the most out of this wine. But tell us about the blend. Tell us, how does it work?
Well, I mean, Tim started this, as you alluded to, like with a trip to the Northern Rhone Valley and Côte Rôtie, where Viognier is co-fermented with Syrah to produce these wonderfully fruity, aromatic, but also long-lived wines. This wine itself is from a fantastic year. 2018 in the Canberra district was not great to start, lots of hail, but then a wonderful ripening season towards the end. So what you got was less grapes from the vine, but the same amount of energy being put into them. So this wine carries a lot of concentration of fruit, but in that signature style of this wine, it's refreshing. There's layers of tannin and acidity in the wine that frame the fruit and push the finish. And I think we were talking about it before, and when we tasted how long the impression of flavour is on this wine.
I mean, hopefully all of you've maybe swallowed just a little bit, just the smallest amount for after 4 o'clock on a Friday, and it's still lingering. And that's a really good sign of a fantastic wine, is just that lingering flavour. And I don't think I can express the importance of this wine actually in Australia's wine history. Like this wine, when Tim first started to make it, no one else was making this style. No one knew that the Canberra district was going to make great wine, to be honest. No one knew that Shiraz and Viognier together were really going to be so well suited to it. And it just has phenomenally changed it. I remember when I first sold this wine, I used to sell it for $60-ish. This is now a $140 wine. This is now considered to be one of Australia's greatest wines by critics around the world. This wine is, I cannot express how absolutely important this wine is. And talking of price, actually, that Ravensworth is a $35 wine, I think. They're both absolutely delicious wines, but this Clonakilla, I think, is something special. And I can see that we have a lot of people loving this here as well. We've got Sheridan, doesn't punch you in the face like normal Shiraz. I think that's perfect. Cool. It's got finesse. It's got Pinot Noir-like finesse and delicacy to it at the same time. Julia said the beautiful colour. Quentin, musky on the nose, incredible balance. It's not Barossa up front fruit bomb that blows the length away. I think that's a really good description. I know, isn't this a cracking little wine? I think there's a good chance that we may have another glass of this afterwards. So in terms of this wine, age-worthiness, like how long does a wine like this go?
The key to age-worthiness, and I guess all wines, but in particular Shiraz and Shiraz-based blends, is that all great wines are in balance from day one. Like you don't wait for tannin or acidity or fruit to integrate. Like young wines, grain's a good example of that. Like powerful wines have all the things in balance. This wine is an absolute reflection of that in a cool climate narrative. So you have this wonderful elegance in the tannins, this refreshing acidity, these delicate but all really wonderfully concentrated fruit flavours at the same time. This wine is built for 15 plus years easily, but I think it will go for further.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Ravensworth is a bright, fruity, early drinking style, whereas this is kind of, this Clonakilla, it's a bit brooding. It's a bit of a brooding, it's not a monster, but it's maybe, it's like a Loch Ness monster. It's under the water and it's going to come at you over a bit of time and it's going to grow. And at the moment, it's still quite, I mean, it's exotic. Like it's got this Chinese 5-spice, white pepper, bay leaf, cranberry, raspberry, earthy, mushroomy, consomme. I could go on for a little while about this particular wine, but underneath also is just this tremendous structure. There's just, and the balance, and great Pinot Noir is exactly like that. It never has a load of tannin, but the great wines that really kick on, they absolutely go for a long period of time. We've got Amelia, yum, great one. People, we're talking about food. We're going to absolutely get to food. Judy Sarah saying it's very elegant as well. So I can see, lovely to see everyone. I'm looking at you too. There seems to be a lot of drinking, which is excellent. That is absolutely what we're here for after 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. So Shiraz within the Canberra district, Clonakilla obviously really the first people to do it. Who else? Who else do you like, Chris?
I mean, for me, collector wines is that next winery to watch.
Yeah.
Alex Mackay, his wines have become, we first encountered him on the show circuit when we're judging, and as just drinkers and writers and sommelier, we sort of encounter them increasingly. And collector's that next one to watch.
Absolutely. Collector is Alex Mackay, just doing cracking. He's he's this very quiet guy. He doesn't make a big deal about it. You don't actually hear about him that much. But if you can find those collector wines, if you go to Canberra and you want an awesome experience, collector's absolutely the one to go to.
We go back to Lark Hill as well. They do a wonderful blend. Murray Bateman wines as well do wonderful Shiraz Viognier blend. I think the idea though with Canberra is that the Shiraz Viognier kind of style of wine has become almost their signature. And it's one I think you have the safest bet if you're seeking it out across any wine, that's going to deliver real quality.
We've got some questions too from Madeline. Should we decant this? Why or why not? So decanting wise, what both these wines, what would sommelier Chris? What would you do?
Every wine can do with a little bit of vet, regardless of whether it's drink now or wait a while. The Clonakilla will benefit the most because, as Angus said, it's kind of brooding, it's kind of compact, it's concentrated. It needs oxygen to release the tannin of it, start expressing more of the vineyard flavour in the fruit profile. The Sangiovese is drink as soon as you can. It's a push-button wine. It's ready to go now. Yeah. But quick decant will reduce any kind of those aromas that maybe come from being enclosed in the bottle and express the fruit flavour as well.
So Amelia has asked about wines. Do Canberra wines win awards? They absolutely do. So from the Canberra district, you have things like, I mean, Clonakilla is regularly awarded to be one of the top 10 wines really in Australia. The Rieslings too, which we'll talk about a bit later. Absolutely, there's a lot of awards. And there's a couple of questions also coming through about organic and biodynamic and what's going on in the region. I mean, as a region that has lots of small family-owned producers, the longevity is really important. The health of the soil is actually a vital piece. They're going to hand it to their children. They don't want to hand them bad soil or harmed soil, diseased soil. So they are looking after it as much as they possibly can. And you have organic, which is obviously keeping away from those herbicides and pesticides. And then you've got some, I mean, is anyone bio? Lark Hill.
Lark Hill are literally the pioneer in Australia, one of the pioneers of biodynamics. And they've got a scientific background, I believe, in terms of their actual original professions. But the idea about biodynamics and lunar cycles and when you plant and the treatments you use is a really intricate process. But organics in particular and sustainability, as Angus alluded to, is on the top of the list for Canberra wineries, being younger wineries and also new winemakers grown up in the contemporary winemaking industry. And
talking about awards, so I just was reminded by Judy Saris, who's the editor of Gourmet Traveller Wine, that Tim Kirk was the Gourmet Traveller Australian Winemaker of the Year in 2013. So absolutely, they have won a hell of a lot of awards. Also, we've got some other people. Can we promote visits to Canberra? Is it okay right now? Absolutely. There are plenty of cellar doors open, but really important that you call early beforehand because there are obviously bookings required for those kind of things. So I think now is the time for us all to hold up which are your favourite wines. So we want to see you hold up either the Clonakilla, obviously, or the Ravensworth, just to see who likes what. So please hold up to the camera now so we can see. You too, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Hold up to the camera. Such a naughty boy.
Naughty monkey.
Okay, I'm going Clonakilla. We've got Clonakilla. We've actually got
Ravensworth for me.
Clonakilla's kind of winning, but Ravensworth's done well. And I'm really, and with Chris as well, and I'm really happy to see that because they are actually both stunning wines. They both are in quite different styles, but they both have personality. They've got character. They show the climate and they show the great varieties that they're made from as well. So now wine and food obviously go hand in hand, obviously a vital part for me and for Chris as well. So I'm really interested if you can start putting comments on the chat room. You've tasted these wines. What would you like to eat with these particular wines? What would be your favourite dishes for these particular wines? So while we're talking about, while you're thinking about that, Chris, for you, these wines, what would they go with? And this is for home, but also for here at QT, fantastic restaurant. What's on the menu now to go with these wines?
At home for Sangiovese, it's simplicity and tomatoes. Either roasted tomatoes, tomato salads, even with mozzarella. Something where you can really champion that acidity in tomatoes. It really latches onto the same characteristic in the wine.
Yes.
That savouriness through the palate in the Sangiovese also suits charcuterie, mortadella, prosciutto, any of those kind of really aged and cured meats. And throw olives in there. Salt and acid work really beautifully. With the Clonakilla, my gut literally steers me towards slow cooked. So ossobuco, things like that, where you've got time to render out protein and fat. And those tannins in that wine aren't really broad-shouldered or abrasive almost. They're really subtle and they're really embedded beautifully in the wine. So you don't need a lot to draw them out. What you need, obviously, is a sweetness and that kind of concentration from slow cooking. So ossobuco, things like that would be, for me, the Clonakilla.
I mean, for me, that gam, I should say, the Ravensworth, the Sangiovese, it just absolutely, it's just got this explosive, youthful energy and exuberance. I just want to drink it now, and I just want to, it's like a picnic wine kind of thing. It's just got so much character, so maybe you might have with cold meats or something like that. You might have with salami. You might have it with a little bit of cheese as well. I think that's what I think. I mean, I cannot get out of my head sausage roll also with that Sangiovese. I reckon with that Ravensworth Sangiovese, good old-fashioned flaky pastry sausage roll with a big squeeze of Master Foods on top, I think would be absolutely delicious with that particular one. For the Clonakilla, though, it's such a serious wine, I just need to give it a little bit of respect. I need to give that wine a little bit of love. And so, again, you actually don't want to make the food too complex because it will take away from the wine. You might get little clashes. So some pink lamb chops or something like that, some nice lamb chops or some nice duck breast or something like that. I think vegetarian too, for that Sangiovese particularly, I think like a vegetable tart. Like I think a big, I'm talking like a vegetable quiche or something like that, something big, thick, capsicum and tomato and eggplant all piled high, I think would go really well. But for the Clonakilla for veg?
For me, eggplant, roasted. And even if you put something really umami on top of like miso, or anything where you can draw out a lot of that kind of natural roasted flavours, but also that umami that comes through from slow cooking vegetables, that layer of tannin that's running through that palate would melt away with the right concentration in those vegetables. So,
I've got a curly one for you.
Go.
Weird. Amelia, she's asked for a weird combination.
A weird combination?
A weird combination with one of the wines. Strange, crazy, food matching. Heston Blumenthal style.
Put on the spot, eggs. It's not working, it's just weird.
Yeah. Truffles.
But eggs are weird, they wouldn't work.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got also Francesca loves the Sausage Roll Club. Excellent, fantastic. We've got actually some really good things here. We've got Quentin, pickled veg dinner. I think some pickled veg for that acidity. Yeah. I think might go well with that gamay too as well. I like Wendy too. Sardines and pickled veg with Sangiovese. Brisket with Clonakilla. I think brisket's actually a really good way to think about it. It's because I think that, if I'm going to go a bit weird, I'm going to go offally. I'm going to go kidneys for that Clonakilla. I'm going to go kidneys. I'm going to go brains. No, it is for a lot of people, Chris.
True.
It's not for us, but it is for a lot of people. So vegetarian options for Shiraz. Pizza. Elisa saying pizza. I think absolute pizza would be fantastic with that. Yeah. Veg for the, I reckon, veg for the
Clonakilla. Well, still with the eggplant.
Yeah.
Still a bit truffle.
I was thinking miso eggplant, Japanese eggplant, something like that. So great ideas from you. Thank you very much. And Chris, no great surprise, great ideas from you. So I'm now absolutely feeling inspired to get down to the Canberra district. Tell us, what are your tips?
I'm lucky as work takes me to the Canberra district a lot to taste, to spend time down there. My first stop was always driving down from Sydney through Yass as kind of a bit of a gateway to the region, and also to go to Cafe Dolcetto. It's kind of a local hub. It opens early because I'm an early riser, but also has great coffee, and it's becomes kind of a little bit of a place where a lot of people go to kickstart their days.
And Yass is a real coffee central. I mean, there's Caffeine with a K2582. And so they do homewares as well. So they sell homewares and do coffee as well. There's also Tootsie, Cafe and Gallery. So that's a place where you can actually see some art at the same time, as well as enjoy your mochaccino. For you, food. What about food, Chris?
I like to combine food and wine when I'm traveling, obviously for keeping me on the straight and narrow, and also because I love the combination. But I think the first stop for me, especially having after coffee and arriving down a little bit late in the morning, is at Four Winds Wines again.
Rising Star.
Yeah, and they've got a wonderful pizza menu. You can build your own platters. There's an outdoor area for your kids. It's just a really casual vibe, but also kind of really champions the local produce that Canberra District's so famous for. And that's kind of the place I stop at first for a meal. Yeah,
I like the Bowning Hotel. It's a lovely little town of Bowning, and it's got it's a traditional big old Australian hotel, over 100 years old. Henry Lawson and Banjo Patterson apparently used to have beers there, and I think for me that sounds like a great reason to go as well. But I mean, and they've got a lovely bistro there as well, so pub kind of bistro. Fine dining for you, Christoph?
Fine dining, I think the idea of like the Gundaroo. Go to Grazing at Gundaroo. That's a place it's got some set menus. They're really reasonably priced, but what it does is a menu that revolves constantly with seasons and purely focuses regional produce, as does their wine list, which I love.
They do weddings as well.
They do weddings as well.
Another great place in Yass is called Clementines. So actually, unfortunately, it's closed during nights at the moment because of what's going on, but they're open for takeaway on the weekend. So great place. Book in early, do some takeaway on the weekends from there. And in July, they're going to open a bakery. So they're going to have a lovely bakery in Yass at the same time. Adam Bartok's the chef there, UK trained, done some great restaurants in the UK, back in Yass now. Accommodation, where are you going to stay?
I'd like to stay at a boat in Murray Bateman, actually. It's a newer hotel, but it's got some wonderfully intimate kind of things like a fireplace that people gather around at the end of the day after they've toured the wineries, a shared kitchen, which you can have like breakfast and lunch in, bikes you can pick up and ride away if you want to see more of the district on, say, by foot power. But also it's on the doorstep to every winery I want to visit. Rates are reasonable, they're pet friendly and kid friendly as well.
Look, I love to go to the Lake George Winery. They do this fantastic kind of luxe experience, fly, wine, stay and dine in a short period of time. So basically from Canberra, you can fly into Lake George, then they take you down to their wine cellar. You get to taste some beautiful wines with a winemaker. They've got Westerly restaurants. You can eat at the restaurant, and there's a lovely place there to stay as well. Also, there's the Globe Inn B&B. So it's an 1847. So that's in Yass again. 1847, beautiful old joint to stay in. Lots of the old fixtures there, but it's kind of been modernised as well. So lovely old place to stay in. You know, kind of classic country. But we're obviously there for the wine. Chris, wineries, picks.
For me, a stop at Helm Wine to see Ken and taste his Rieslings is probably a must. Book ahead because it's hard to get seats. See Ken.
And Ken, you actually taste wine in an old schoolhouse, which I think is awesome. An old wooden schoolhouse. And Ken can tell you everything about wine. So definitely make sure Ken is absolutely on the list.
100%. We mentioned Collector before. That's a must. Four Winds, of course. Lark Hill. There's some of those wineries that I think for us are absolutely must-sees. Lerida Estate is a place I don't get good coffee in the morning, but probably tastes Canberra's best Pinot. So again, these are places that I think you need to book ahead, as Angus alluded to. But the great part about it is you'll get to meet winemakers, and that's where you get this really intimate and kind of understanding of this community of the Canberra district as well.
And accommodation, obviously, we can stay at Lake George Winery. Which other wineries have got places to stay?
Lerida Estate does it?
I think so as well.
Yeah.
So there's a handful of other places where you can stay. I mean, I think that, Ken Helm is absolutely a place. Collector, though, if you're going to go to anywhere, Collector Wines is absolutely the place to visit in the Canberra district. Does a fantastic job. Other things to do you like to do?
We'll go to the markets in
Absolutely. Murray Bateman Market. So first Saturday, every Saturday in the morning, Murray Bateman Market, so fresh food markets. If I'm coming from Sydney, I'll absolutely fill up the boot of the car for the weekend and take it back on Monday. You've also got Robin Row Chocolates. So brilliant Belgian chocolate place, really finely detailed Belgian chocolates. You've got the the Winds Creek Meadery too. So they've got mead, they've got honey beer. Can you think of a better thing than honey beer? They've got cider. So as you can see, really, there is a hell of a lot to do in Canberra. And we've got just some questions. We've got Judy Sarah saying, Helm's amazing. Absolutely, no doubt about that. We've got Robin Road Chocolates, great go-to from Madeline. That's fantastic. Someone actually asked, we've got Julia, what do Italians eat with Sangiovese?
Because Tuscany and that, I guess they call it the fat belt, right? Like there's a lot of rich cooking and there's a lot of pastas, a lot of tomato-based sauces.
I don't know why they call it that.
No, I've been there and I can't imagine why. But the idea with Tuscan diet in particular, a lot of hard cheeses is number one, and that suits Sangiovese to a T. Salt and acid work beautifully together, and a lot of those cheeses are stunning with Sangiovese. Tomato-based dishes. Again, we go back to what we were talking about before. That's not just because I think it works from a cooking standpoint, but if you go to Tuscany, the best tomatoes in Italy are from Tuscany.
A really important thing about the Sangiovese too is this is quite a light Sangiovese that Brian's made. So it's quite a light and acidic Sangiovese. A lot of the Italian ones, the Brunellas and the Chiantis, they're big tannic wines. So they love absolutely a bit of slow cooked meat. Now, absolutely we need to talk about the Canberra district because it's a fantastic place. But just remember, I was talking to Graham Shaw this morning from Shaw Wines, and he was saying they're really busy down there. So it's absolutely essential that you book early if you're going to get there, because places are definitely booked out early. And of course, if you're not feeling well, just put your holiday off. Don't go in there if you're not feeling well. And when you get there, obviously, social distancing, hygiene, all that kind of stuff. It's essential for us, obviously, to keep all these places open. Now is really the time for us to do this final cheers, to do our final cheers with all the photos. So please, can everyone get on the screen, and I will call you out. I've been ordered to call you out. Samantha, that's all right. I know her. She's all right. Okay, everyone's there, which I think is fantastic. So I just want to say cheers to you all. Thank you all so much for joining us. So now we're going to take a break from our virtual wine appreciation, but please stay tuned for the next phase, because we are so hoping that we are going to see you in person very soon. So let's do the cheers, everyone. Glass up. Cheers. Fantastic. Cheers, Chris. Cheers. Thank you to you. Thank you to the beautiful
Thank you, everyone.
QT. Thank you to Ravensworth. Thank you to Clonakilla. But thank you all for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed your little trip today through the Canberra district. And enjoy those wines. The next couple of days, they'll be beautiful if you keep them in the fridge with all kinds of weird and wonderful food. Thank you. Goodbye.